I understand that the air compressor is probably loud, but what I did was tried to chamfer it down about 2/3 of the way. One thing the man at the welding shop mentioned is spraying it down with carb cleaner to check for cracks. And what he had mentioned is it will evaporate slower if there's a crack, thus showing the crack. And I am not seeing any right here. That's just a little spot where I run off with the die grinder. So I want to try to clean that up a little more there, try to get rid of some of that paint. Try to finish up my patch. I decided after I marked this to clean up the hole a little bit first. So we're not too far off with my marks. Like I mentioned earlier, I want to try to have about 1/16 of an inch all the way around. And I'll reach down in there with the Sharpie, touch that up, trim this down, clean it up, chamfer it. And then I'm going to try to do what the man called a cold welding process, which is basically multiple short welds, letting it cool in between. Supposedly you don't have to preheat. He recommended against preheating the block unless I could heat the entire block. So stay tuned. Well, good evening, YouTube. More adventures in the shop. Getting back to the 3034. I know I've been a little laxed on getting videos out to you, but it's time to start welding. And I got the patch made. I was going to film it, but fortunately I got preoccupied and things were rolling, and a little frustrating because there is a bit of a curve to the cylinder walls, or the block wall I should say. This was my first attempt, and I stuck it in the press on top of a piece of pipe, which I don't have laying over there, and basically domed it. And when I cut it down, I maybe got in a little bit of a hurry. Ended up with a fairly large gap there. So the second one, I stuck it in my little homemade press brake on a 20-ton Harbor Freight press. Just put a single bend in there, and my goal is to have about a 1/16 to an 1/8 inch of a gap around all the way. Really pleased with how that's laying in there fitting. I'm going to tack this up this evening, maybe put one little short weld in. I'm using a process called cold welding, and an engine builder had told me about this, as well as Praxair. Will be using 99 nickel rod on a DC positive setting with low amperage. And essentially the process is no preheating. I've been warned against preheating the engine block because that'll lead to cracks elsewhere. And basically the process is you weld a 1/2 inch to an inch at a time and let it cool down to the point where you can put your hand on it and lay the next weld on there. So we're going to be warming things up in the shop to about 70 degrees and letting her rip, and hopefully it all works and I'll be smiling. So hopefully you enjoy this. Thanks for watching. Well, good morning, YouTube. New day in the shop. Still working on this patch. Welded on it last night. Put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 to 7 welds on it. A couple of them I wasn't happy with them, so I made another pass alongside of it because they were a little cold, a little shallow. And looking at it this morning, I'm not happy with it. So I'm going to grind those out and retry it. This was a double pass right here, and I think that'll be just fine. It looks a little cold, but it's penetrated. I ended up turning my welder up yesterday. This weld I'm satisfied with. It's ugly, but we've got good penetration on both sides, no visible cracks. So here we're grinding out that little corner and this little corner. Do it again. Wanted to show you that mistakes are made here, but we're not starting over from scratch. We're starting over with some new knowledge. So, do a little grinding here, do a little welding. This one here cleaned up real nice. As you can see, I was pretty shallow with my weld feed. Half tempted to take that other corner out too, but that one there, that actually had good penetration. I'm just going to clean it up a little bit. So, all right. Well, we're slowly making some progress. Got a couple welds crack that I had to grind out, doctor up a little bit. Right over here, it's working fairly well. Down in this corner where the cast is heavy, I kind of have a cold lap there. I've ground that out a few times. I think I'm just going to lay a weld alongside of that, blend it all together. Slowly keep working my way around, and hopefully it stays and doesn't fall out. Weld for about 20-30 seconds. Let it sit and cool for about 10 minutes. It's cool enough now where I can hold my hand on the patch. The cast dissipates the heat, or it takes a lot to heat up the cast, maybe would be a better way to say it. So the cast is cool, it's staying relatively cool. It's the plate in between that gets crazy hot. And I've been playing with my heat setting a little bit, playing with my technique, still kind of trying to figure out how to make it work. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I think it's the material I'm welding. I am using nickel rod, 99% nickel. They're kind of spendy. These are 3/32 rods. A pound of them was $90 at Praxair. I'm doing DC electrode positive. And the only DC welder I have other than my wire feed is my little Yes welder. It's a 135 amp, 110 volt welder that I bought off Amazon. It actually works really well. The duty cycle's a little weak, but for this job it's doing just fine. With a coupon, I think at the time it was $150, plus it come with 10-foot lead, stinger, ground clamp, and you can also use flux core wire in it. It'll hold a 2-pound roll of flux core wire, and it come with the gun for that as well. So kind of a handy little welder, weighs 18 pounds. Easy to carry, use it anywhere. So we'll keep plugging along here and I'll try to keep you up to speed. All right, YouTube, we are still chugging along. This is taking forever, but it should be worth it. And I'm learning a few little techniques that I think are helping. One video I watched had said to concentrate on the steel wet onto the cast. However, it seems like when I do that, I end up being too cold on the cast, and the steel is wetting very easily. So just opposite. The other thing that I'm finding is this weld right here I just completed, and I come in at a very sharp angle to the tune of about like that. And it seems like it pushes the slag and all the immaterials up on top and gives me a very clear view of the puddle so I can see what I'm doing. Right back in here, I come in more at probably a 60-degree angle, and that tends to leave more of a cold, really ropey type of a weld. I know they say you should have a little bit of a rope to this, and you can see this is convex. It's got a hump in it. Right in here I'm a little flat. But if you get it too thin in the middle, then that tends to crack as well. So this is kind of what I'm finding. We're slowly approaching the finish line. I started on this at about 10 o'clock and we're approaching 1 o'clock now, so that's 3-ish hours. I probably worked on this for 4 or so yesterday. This is an all-day job. It's about a 3.5-inch diameter hole, so there is roughly 10 inches of weld to go all the way around that. So hope all this helps, and please continue watching. Tell your friends. Hit subscribe. Thanks. Well, good morning again, YouTube. I have one word for this little welding project, and that would be humbling. Anyway, thought I had it looking really pretty decent. Then last night, as it was cooling down, I heard a pop. And I was going to touch it up a little bit here this morning, a couple little pinholes and stuff that I didn't like. And went in with the die grinder. And as I opened it up, I discovered a crack right around the patch. And pretty much followed the crack all the way around the bottom side. From here on up is fine. I just kind of had a cold lap there. I was going to touch that up and make it look prettier and tie it into that gusset a little better. But from this opening right down here all the way around to right up about here is where my issue lies. And basically it's everywhere where the cast is heavy. And when I would weld, I was concentrating on the cast, but even when the weld was basically done, say I welded right along here, I could hold my finger back here and it wasn't hot. So essentially what happened to me was I basically threw a cold joint all the way along where the cast is thick. So I'm going to turn the welder up a little more. Still continue to do some short welds, peen, wait, let it cool. The other thing I'm going to try to do, I'm going to tack into these corners first, or weld a 1/2 inch bead into that corner and this corner here, and leave the engine tilted slightly upward and basically do a vertical up with the rod pointed down towards the previous one. Probably touch it up with the die grinder just a tick and then work my way up. So any luck, that'll be the way to go. All my cracks were right along the cast, and it started clear up here and followed down all the way to the bottom. So basically I'm starting over. But every place where I ground against the plate, it's flowing into the mild steel. Fantastic. So guess we're gonna try this again. This is roughly hour number 11 or hour number 12. So it's a slow, tedious process, but like I was saying before, this is about a $4,000 block, and if I can make it work, great. If things fail, go to plan B or plan C. So plan C I still have to make yet. Anyway, thanks for watching. Well, good morning, YouTube. Welcome back to Frustrating Adventures in Cast Welding. I'm going to try to show you a magnified view of this mess. But basically I'm down to 2 inches of weld, and as you've seen in the previous video, I had to grind out most of my patch, and I continued to follow that crack all the way up to the top. I turned up my welder, changed my welding technique just a little bit, basically the angle of the rod, and ended up multi-passing most of my wide gaps and trying to offset the ends of the welds so that all my cold joints don't start at the same place. As you can see, and I've got the light focused up on what's left, there's a little bit of a crack. We're going to try going through my detective glass here, and you can see there's a little bit of a crack up on the side of the cast iron, down all the way to the bottom in the groove over here, just to where I'm poking through into the block. You can see that there's a little black blotch that's actually opened into, try to get a little less glare. There we go. Now I got a shadow. There you can see the opening, a little bit of a crack off to the left of that, and then the crack continues off to the right. It's a mess, but I can't seem to find any cracks outside of these gussets. Stand this light up. And I don't think there's any kind of technique that's going to make this look pretty. Everybody told me it's going to be a mess. But it's ropey, slag pockets, pinholes. But as long as it holds, doesn't fall out, once this is all done, I'm probably going to smear it with an epoxy or JB weld, something to that effect, to fill those little pinholes. I seriously doubt it's going to leak too much, but it's hard to say. It looks much better if you take the magnifying glass out. That really magnifies the little critters. But I probably have 90% penetration into the steel plate, and probably in that 70 to 80% penetration into the cast, which is more than ample to hold it in. Basically, it's filling the little gaps. So I'm gonna throw you guys up on top of something and finish out these last two welds. I'm gonna do the deep one here to the right first, and my thinking on that is that's going to be a little bigger weld, more fill, and more heat. We'll peen that just like every weld. I'll show you how long I've been doing that. And come back when it's cool and hit that last little one. When I'm peening on the welds, I am peening directly in the center of the weld. And with all the impurities, right there I've got a little pocket of slag. The plate's still just a little warm. I'm going to quick throw just a little patch over that or a little glob of weld, just in case that wants to leak. There's a couple little pinholes. Basically, I'm just gonna do a light spray arc over it. Hopefully it sticks and plugs those holes. We'll let her cool for a few more minutes. Finish this project up, I hope. Sit back. We hear no cracks. I'm gonna be happy. These rods are kind of like 70-18s where they get a flux that goes over the tip. Yeah, smack it hard. Break through that and make it go. So I've just been trying to have it tap on the rod before I go to weld. So my last little bit of weld will go from right here to right here. It's relatively shallow. The crack's kind of high up in the cast here. And throw that in. Here's where I tried to fill a little slaggy spot, and all the slag did was boil up to the top. Didn't fill. So I may try to do a light fan over that, but generally all you do is chase her around. So there's, she's just beautiful. Should have counted the number of rods before I started, but about 1 pound of rod with tax, it was $90. I'm down to 2 full rods plus this guy right here. give you one last look and call it good. Let it cool down, wait for the crank to get done, order parts, throw it all back together. I did. I'm making a mess, so I'm gonna have to wash the hell out of this thing. But I bought heavy tin foil and laid in there. I don't know if it worked or not. We'll find out here soon enough. There's a few little tears, gouges where slag is falling through. You can see up top there. Gonna have to come inside with the die grinder. I can see I got some bubbles. Where the slag is falling through. But we'll touch that up, get that addressed. All right, hope you enjoyed. Hopefully you learned something. I don't know if I'd do this on a easy to replace engine block like a 350 Chevy, depending on what it is. This block seems to make sense, so thanks for watching. Flip the engine over, looking at the inside of the patch. Basically, there it is. There's just a little bit of a high spot where it puddled. And none of these surprised me because I had a fairly good gap around there. Those goobers there is where I ground out pretty wide on top. So what we're going to try to do, reach down in there with the die grinder. Then I'm going to have to thoroughly give this engine a good washing, get it cleaned out. And I'm hoping I can lay this down and put some soapy water in the inside where it'll puddle, cover all my weld, and see how bad it leaks. That will determine if I should coat the outside with anything to help it seal. So, I'm gonna get after it with the die grinder. I'm gonna warn you, it's probably loud noises. Well, this welding video ended up having kind of an abrupt ending. I didn't really close it out too well. I think I was just more than happy to be done with it. But ended up cleaning up the block, real shiny and nice. Washed it. This is right after I honed it, which is a video that'll be coming right up here shortly. As you've seen earlier, kind of some ugly welding, but hopefully it holds and keeps everything in place and provides years of service. I did tip it over. I did not catch it on film, but I put warm soapy water on the inside after I leveled up the block, and I did get some water permeating through. It was basically a drip every 15 to 20 seconds. I do plan on coating this with some epoxy, painting over it, trying to make it look as nice as I can, but it just has to function. It doesn't have to be pretty. Fortunate thing is this is on the side that's accessible. It's a little bit hidden behind the starter, but if I remove the starter, I can doctor this up at any time. So anyway, this has been a challenge. It's been very interesting for me. I learned quite a bit, tried different things, and like I say, hopefully it works. So maybe this will help somebody out in the future. More than happy to ask questions if anybody has any. And hopefully you enjoy the buildup of this engine and it all goes well. So thanks again for watching, and thanks for your patience.